Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
2 weeks in, folks. 2 weeks in. I hate to tell you this, but it's not just 2 weeks in. It's the rest of our lives. Is that too dark? Is that too dark for everybody? Look, okay. I have been thinking about this a lot over the last couple weeks while I paced myself in the madness. And the thing is, they have been at this strategizing for 50 years. So I decided to slow down my adrenaline, control my emotions, not react to every single thing that happened, which is very hard. And I'll be honest with you, it's why I'm very happy to have in studio two of my very good friends to have these conversations, to talk to you. We have in studio with us Elliott Serrano. Thank you so much for filling in for me over the last couple of weeks. And
okay, my mic wasn't on before. It is. Hey, yeah, it's so nice to be here.
I'm sorry I made you be the person that was like on inauguration. Your inauguration? Yeah, you were inauguration day.
Ken Mejia Beal and I were here afterwards, and that was something. There was a bit. I had to have a little on air therapy. People had to call in and text in on things that made them happy because I was in a spiral at that point.
I think when you mentioned this, because I used to host a radio show late in the evening, and I decided we ended every show with "Tell me something good."
Tell me something good.
And we actually have the music, which we can't use, but tell me something.
It's actually nice.
Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah. It is nice. We need nice.
Yes, and that's Dr. Susana Flores, who is an author, and I was with her on Inauguration Day at the World War II Museum. We were actually in the gallery of the Allies and the fascists, looking at pictures of Adolf Hitler and Mussolini, and then moments later, we saw the video of someone giving a Nazi salute, and have been gaslit ever since on every single thing, every single moment, all the time, by the fascists. Essentially, the people who were like, "Yeah, we need this."
The timing was
startling.
Startling. That's a good word.
It was very startling, and I was very excited because in grad school, I had worked on a project for my thesis on the women who flew in the service of the United States during World War II. And Dr. Flores was like, "Oh, you're going to love the exhibit. It's going to be great. I've got to show this to you." We went to ask the tour guides, and they're like, "Oh," and I knew it as they were telling. I was like, it was a temporary exhibit, which was replaced by Tuskegee Airmen, both temporary exhibits. And then later that day,
I was crushed.
And then, but within hours, I don't know if it wasn't that day or the next, when they said the Air Force would no longer teach about the history of, and I think that's been changed. I think they went back.
They did, because that got enough. That got enough.
I just really wanted you to see the women, because it's so rare.
Yes, and again,
so it's like sad, but I'm like happy for the new one, but still sad.
And here, folks, we know a little bit about the Tuskegee Airmen as far as the women in service to the Air Force, the WASPs. I believe it was 19 women who lost their lives ferrying planes, making sure they got to where they needed to be for the pilots. They also were test pilots for new planes, some of whom crashed to their deaths, and they flew target practice where ground-to-air artillery was shot at them as they just dragged parachutes, essentially, to be shot at. And so the women who died in service of the Air Force were not given military burials. They were sent home in pine boxes and were never received as the heroes that they were until Jimmy Carter came in office. Anyway, but the fact that they reversed, right, Elliott? So we're seeing a lot of this in the last few days of these reversal. When the first thing happens is the bigger story, right? When the press conference of, well, that tragedy was because of DEI. Well, these tariffs were paused because we won. Like, the narrative is insane, and that's why I didn't want to be here every day, because I can't respond every single second to every single. How do I pace myself, Doc?
There was a lot of teasers, right?
Yeah.
Like, it was like on and off. You're like, okay, that's a loaded question. How do you pace yourself,
yeah,
right?
That's the whole thing.
You know what? I think it's a matter of like just taking like a moment, or a couple of days to just let this sink in and then wait for more information. So a friend of mine, Janet, really helped me with this. It's like, okay, there's the difference between what they say,
yes,
and what they can do. So we just have to wait. And that helped. because otherwise it's like mini heart attacks. And so, one of the things some of the things I tell my clients is like, how about like removing the push notifications on your news apps, right? And taking a break from the news. Like, it's important to be informed, obviously, right?
Right.
But if you do that, you get to decide when you are ready or in a good place to receive the mini heart attack, I guess, so to speak, right? And like get, some news, but it's for you. It's not, when other people decide. So the breaks are very essential, and focusing on the positive. That's why I was like, oh, there is positive stuff that you were talking about on the radio, right? We need that.
Right. Where do you go? I mean, like, are you getting alerts, Elliott? Are you, what's your source?
I did, like, Susanna said, I turned all that off.
Yeah.
You want to know why, too? And I know people want to be informed, and you should be informed. But let's be real, too. The way the system is set up now with all this media that we have pushing at us, I mean, they know they're pushing this at us. Right. They know they want us to feel this way.
Right.
And add to that, what have people been? I'm noticing now. Suddenly, everything that Trump is doing, why is he able to do this? That doesn't work. Suddenly, tariffs are a bad idea, and yet all throughout the campaign, there was all this sane washing going on. There was all this. There was no pushback against anything that Trump was saying, like there was against Harris or even Biden. It was the old, we're just trying to keep the playing field level. That's completely gone now. And now it's like, well, what Trump is doing is ridiculous. Like, well, we saw that during the campaign, but nobody wanted to call it that. Everyone was like keeping it even. So I'm like, that was the purpose of the corporate media, dispersing their information. Yep. Kind of like we're going to keep you here because I think it was Seth Meyers who said it. He was on I want to say it was a Colbert or one of the other shows, and they were saying Stephen Colbert asked, "Hey, so what if Trump got back in office? What would that be like?" This was, of course, during the campaign, and Seth Meyers goes, well, yeah, I mean, I know my bosses would be really happy, because we'd have a lot of material, a lot to talk about. But I'd rather not. I'd rather not have that. Yeah. Because now, of course, now CNN can go back on their outrage machine. Now everybody can go back to blah blah blah. And the quote unquote engagement, which is really, I'm going to call it derangement now on social media. Hey, wait a minute, didn't you write a book about this sort of thing?
Yes, I did.
Right? So that just goes up, and the folks who are in charge of these platforms are just loving it. They're eating it up. Meanwhile, all of us are driving ourselves nuts.
I agree. And I never, look, I'm a comedian. I've been a comedian for over 30 years. I don't need more material. But human beings in and of themselves are my family, my experiences in public, just going on a flight. And this is not what even though I got into stand-up comedy to talk about politics, which it just wasn't my strength. It's what I love doing here. I want to make sure that we are having these conversations and we're working through it together. But I don't need material. Yeah, it didn't make me happy in 2000. Believe me.
I mean,
didn't South Park at one point say they can't write anymore?
Yeah.
Because reality has become stranger than fiction. Like, you're supposed to make fun out of it,
right?
But it's so extreme. Our reality is so extreme. Like, they're like, okay, what do we do with this? Like, it's already at the point of ridiculous or funny or heartbreaking or panic, whatever. But they couldn't even take that further.
Right. And I think this is where I am. And I know it sounds harsh. And I said this last Monday when I came back after being with you in New Orleans, which was just a fabulous trip. And many memories were made, including a historic snowfall.
Right. 10 inches.
If you're going to go to New Orleans and be there for a snowstorm, it might as well be something that no living human being has ever experienced.
Now, was it really 10 inches or what a man says is 10 inches?
Yeah, we didn't have that in over 100 years. 100 years. And then Patti arrives.
I know.
Right? I told her repeatedly it was her fault because a Chicagoan flies in, and then something that hasn't happened in over 100 years happens.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is all you.
I know.
All you.
I will not make travel plans that way again. I apologize. I hope that it's wonderful as your nuptials approach, which I have to convince Elliott to join me. We're getting an Airbnb, Elliott. Will you come join me in New Orleans?
Well, if okay.
We could drive. We could take Moneypenny. We'll find a dog friendly Airbnb.
Let's hope there is still a New Orleans by the time we get there.
Well, you stop it. Stop. You stop that right now.
Have you ever been? Have you been to New Orleans?
I've never been to New Orleans.
Elliott.
You'll love it.
Yes, I know.
You'll love it. You may move there.
I definitely want to get some of those
Po' boys? Gumbo?
Beignets.
Beignets, yes.
Yeah, we're like going down the list, one over the other.
Ever since John Favreau showed how to make the beignets it's that particular restaurant that they make the beignets.
Cafe du Monde.
Cafe du Monde.
Oops.
No, it's okay. You were there.
There we go. So,
Also, Cafe Beignets very good.
Yeah, it is good.
But it's because you can order like the batter or like the mix from Cafe du Monde.
Yes, you can.
And he had it and he did it on his show, and I was like, oh man, I want some.
Okay, let's go. Me, you, and Moneypenny. We're road tripping.
You know how it starts? It's like, okay, there's three of you, right? You go to Cafe du Monde, and you're like, I will order one order because like it's one beignet each, and then you taste it, and then the following time that you go there, like, okay, they're mine. Right, like no, like you're grabbing your fork, ready to stab your friends. Right, if they try to come after you, they are that good.
Have you been to the places that do the cream filled beignets? There were a couple I've seen like on TikTok.
I don't think so.
We went to explore those too next. I mean, just for nothing. Do you like oysters?
Yeah, yes, I've had oysters.
Raw oysters at Clyde's.
Yeah, I've had those.
So this guy. So I was about to go to Felix's, I think, for oysters, and the bartender was like, "This guy, he's from Scotland, really, salt of the earth kind of guy." He's like, "Hey, he goes, as a matter of fact, there's a guy setting up. There's a pop-up oyster shucker. Aw shucks." And he does like raw oysters and he does grilled oysters. They set up a grill for him outside. Elliott?
I'm sure it's good.
I mean, I was very hard not trying to recreate the Meg Ryan scene, even though they're recreating the Meg Ryan scene for the Super Bowl. But I was like,
are they really?
I'm sorry, what was that?
What were you doing? What are you doing on the radio?
So good.
I want what she's having.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're doing for Hellman's mayonnaise. They're doing the reenactment of Billy Crystal and Meg Ryan at the deli. Yeah,
fantastic.
But I didn't know that as I was slurping oysters at Clyde's Corner in New Orleans. It was very good.
Well, I mean, it's right off the Gulf, so of course you're going to have some good oysters.
Oh, my God, Elliott.
The Gulf of Mexico or the Gulf of America?
Oh, no. Let's take a break here. More in a moment with our guest. We have in studio
you had to go there.
Author, fill and host here at WCPT, Elliott Serrano joins us. He also writes He's written comic books that you might want to check out, including
Adventures of Grumpy Cat.
Grumpy Cat.
It's on Amazon.com. You can find Grumpy Cat.
And Dr. Susana Flores. She's a psychologist as well as an author of the books Face Hooked and Untamed. The
Psychology of Marvel's Wolverine.
I watched Deadpool and Wolverine with my husband, by the way.
So good.
Yes. So good. Let's take a break. It's so I mean, like, oh my God. Okay, more in a moment. That means just the opening credits alone with his spine and his skull.
It was good.
More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We can open up the phone lines if folks want to give us a call. You can also text us at 773-763-9278. That's 773-763-9278. More in a moment.
Hey Progressives, it's Richard Chu, host of Chu's Views, weekdays from 6 to 8 a.m. here on WCPT. I want to let you know that one of our leading progressive voices, Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson, will be my guest the first Friday of each month at 7:30 a.m.
There are so many people who want to understand how decisions are made, and there are many people who want to know that they are included in those decisions.
Mayor Brandon Johnson, the first Friday of every month on Chu's Views here on WCPT.
Because facts matter. You're listening to WCPT 820.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you for joining us as we continue to drive it home. I'm your host, Patti Vasquez, in studio with my good friends and my experts as well in various fields. Psychologist, Dr. Susana Flores, the author of Face Hooked, which was at the forefront, I think, of understanding how participating in social media affects your brain chemistry. Mm-hmm. And here we are at the part of the fruition of all of that nonsense. And because I was telling you that I was following a thread because I have a sort of a mixture of people politically on Facebook that people were celebrating, saying, Canada caved and Mexico caved. And I was like, that's not what's happening. But these are people whose brains are now trained to have that dopamine, to have that adrenaline by owning somebody or causing rage and fear, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you a funny story. During the time that I was writing Facehooked, I did a lot of presentations and interviewed a lot of people. And I found an old PowerPoint presentation that I did, and there was one slide that was like, it was the question, can you imagine what would happen if people in office or Congress or whatever, right, use social media like in any way? And I said, that will never happen, because honestly, at that time, like, you can see it written on there. Well, that will never happen. But just imagine the catastrophe that would happen if they did. Like to push their platforms or whatever. Right?
Wow.
And I was like, and then so I saw it recently, and I was like, wow. Right? Like, again, even at that time,
if you harness that, right?
It was hard to, wrap your brain around that.
And then the Apex is the owner of the biggest platform that Donald had, control of, essentially, is then owned by a Nazi. Right? Somebody who grew up in apartheid thinks that separating people by race and that the whites are the superior. Elon Musk. Essentially, that's where we are now. Good times. How are you doing, Elliot? Is Facebook up? Folks are asking if we're still having tech issues. I'm not sure if Facebook is up, but I don't know. I know that we're still working on it, especially with the cameras. Here's a text. Just face the facts, Democrats. There's no going back. Too many lies have been told. Too much corruption has been exposed. Too many bridges burned. It's time to pack up and move on. America has disowned you. I know a lot of people want to. I understand.
It's Emperor Palpatine again. That happened last week when I was on. There's someone who keeps texting in. It's like, pack it up, Democrats.
Democrats have lied over and over again.
And move on to what?
Well,
move on to what?
They want the country to themselves.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
We don't have to hear from you.
Pack it up.
This is unnecessary. Anyone who says they're not optimistic about Donald Trump coming into office at this stage of the game is not an honest who's not optimistic. Like, how? Okay, this is on January 17th. Well, please tell me, 815. 200. Why are you optimistic? What has been exposed in the last 2 weeks that has shown how optimistic you are?
I'm waiting for those price controls. I'm waiting for that plan to bring prices down.
I would love the list.
Haven't heard that yet.
And I'll give you a call. You want me to I'll give you a call right now? You can tell us the Hey, Jim. Hey, Jim. Matt's going to come running here. We don't do that here. Hey, Jim, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, I ran across a Gaelic epitaph that I think applies to Trump, and it goes like this. Here lies Donald Trump, crook, but savage greed aside. He did one truly noble thing. He died.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an old Gaelic epitaph, but it applies to this guy without a doubt. But anyway, how about, if this, forget it. What's interesting about this is, what they do is Trump puts out this long dossier of why he did something ridiculous. But what is insane about it, he always puts his picture at the bottom. Now, why in the hell would he put his picture at the bottom?
I missed at the bottom of what?
He'll say, for instance, yesterday he was explaining why he was doing the tariffs, and it is, demented mind. He didn't write it. I don't know who wrote it for him. But anyway, it's like maybe 7 or 8 paragraphs, and they put it on the news. But at the bottom, at the period, it's got his face, this horrible-looking face with that repulsive smile. And you just wonder, is this 4 years of scrolling? What is this? How long can the United States take it?
I don't know.
They have a big brouhaha Wednesday down at the Daily Center at the Picasso. I think they're going to have a group of people down there at noon.
There's going to be protests in every state. I remember somebody in the last few days. I saw someone asking why Americans aren't protesting, and I think that we, like me, are managing the pace, right? And I know that there are protests around the world, basically protesting against the regime here. I think that the reaction from Canada and Mexico shows that they're not playing. And I don't understand I guess, people who want to text in and then hide without giving me any examples of what they're optimistic about, except for owning the libs. I mean, that's essentially all they're excited about. Even in that thread I was telling you, they were just excited about libs, and that's the same thing as the 815-200 is they're like, we'll just move like that. They want and okay, good luck with.
Okay, I mean, but 4 years of let's go, Brandon. Okay, it's not like when Biden was in office that the Trump supporters didn't complain and whine and constantly grouse about things and go all over social media and grouse about things.
I don't want to wear a mask, and they want me to get vaccinated so I can save my life.
Right.
You guys are so mean.
I will not be controlled.
Right. So so fine, and that's the country. You get to be that way. But to me, when they come out now and they go, oh well, now we got to unite behind the president. Why do you guys keep complaining all the time? Like, y'all, it wasn't like again the other side was all fine and copacetic during the whole thing. So hey, guess what, folks? Now you get to be on the other side. You get to listen to us complain about things the whole time and on social media, just like you guys were the whole time. So I find it very disingenuous in that point, and but yeah, we got to pace ourselves. And at this point, it's so close after the election. I think the protesting is one thing, but I think people need to get together and talk and go, okay, why did people vote this way, and why did it go this way? This past week in Elgin, okay, last week in Elgin, there were protests, about the ICE raids. I'm not going, it's just fine. It was a lot of the Hispanic community was out. I'm saying you want to protest, fine, but hey, you know what you should have been doing? You should have been talking to your Latinos for Trump friends and saying, hey, this is what's going to happen. And I don't see a lot of that.
I saw this video on TikTok of this woman, Latina, and she was in tears. And she said, I can't believe that I voted for Trump. Now that I'm seeing ICE and, what's going to happen or whatever. And everyone is dumbfounded of okay, were you not seeing the same things that we were seeing? Are you not hearing the same things that we, and maybe not. Right? We don't know what happens on certain networks or whatever, right? But it's what part of, his narrative did you not understand? It was what?
South Dakota farmer, dairy farmer in South Dakota, I think 60 Minutes went there, talked to this guy. He voted for Trump. But he goes, you realize that if Trump, starts deporting immigrants, your factories, your dairy farm is going to be affected. I mean, he said at least half of the total workers there.
Did you see the construction workers in Florida? They can't finish houses. They can't finish houses there.
Right.
No workers.
And all this stuff.
Well, I hope that doesn't happen. I'm but he's been saying it.
He said that the farmer himself said, well, I know he says that, but I would hope he's not really going to do that because it's going to hurt us.
Yeah. But he's been saying it.
Yeah, Jim, what was that, Jim?
I was going to say, my Republican friends refused to watch the January 6th trial. They watched everything on the Internet. They wouldn't watch regular television. They watched the trial, watch the witnesses come forward and say how Trump ginned up the riot, how he tried a coup d'etat in the United States, the first one in history. They wouldn't look at that reality. They told me that on the Internet and on TikTok and so on and so forth, they saw the FBI rushing the building. This is what they believe. They saw the FBI doing it. They believe this. The FBI actually rushed the building. It wasn't Trump. It was only to discredit Trump. And then he actually won the election, but he won the election. I mean, this is honest to God truth. And these are people in their 50s and 60s, and they're telling me absolute nonsense. But it said, Jim, but it says it here. It says it right here. I don't care what it says there. What did you see with your own two pupils? What did you see with your own two eyes? Do you believe what you see with your own two eyes, or do you believe nonsense?
That's being willfully blind. Here. Yep, that's being willfully blind.
Yeah, but how do you get through to a person who believes?
You don't get through to people who are just dumb. I don't know what to tell you.
But just that Republicans.
Just say, I didn't realize you were so dumb. I'm done talking to you. I'm so sorry the education system and your family, failed you. I can't talk to you anymore.
these are dyed-in-the-wool Republicans. I mean, I've known them all my life. They're dyed-in-the-wool Republicans. They'd vote for the devil himself.
Were they ever? Did you ever find them to be smart people? I mean, like, have you ever been so impressed by their intellectual abilities?
Yeah, when I go back maybe 40 or 50 years, I had some, dear friends.
Yeah, hey, having a drink and talking about the Cubs and the Sox is one thing.
But when they voted for Republicans, I rolled my eyes. But the truth was, in those days, a sane person was a dinner or a cocktail party. You did not bring up religion or politics. You put a net over your head if you started with that.
Well, it's funny you say that. It's funny you say that because my dad was a Republican. My dad voted for the last Democrat he voted for before he became a Republican for most of his life. He voted for Adlai Stevenson. Apparently was devastated by that loss, became a Republican, became more of a Reagan Republican. And when I would hang out with him and his friends at the Dunkin' Donuts over by here in Milwaukee and Devon, yeah. They would say all kinds of racist crap, and I would have into high school. I'd have arguments with them. And I remember one of my big arguments with somebody over Fernando Valenzuela that he could only pitch when he drank tequila and just ignorant. Ignorant crap. You heard them say ignorant crap, and you just let it slide because they were your buddies at the bar. Right. We let it slide for a long time, and now you realize, oh, well, they're just ignorant, and here we're stuck with them.
What if we have a big demonstration, and what if Trump sends that nitwit in, and they use the National Guard, and it's like a scene down in Ohio where they shot 4 students dead in the Nixon days. I've been in those demonstrations where there's huge amounts of people.
Yep.
But with this guy,
I will say this: I think he wants an excuse to fire on us, and that's something that gives everyone pause in organizing these protests.
And Musk would love it.
Yeah.
Musk would absolutely love it.
I got to run some other calls.
He would love to see dead people. Yeah, I know. He'd love to see dead people.
Absolutely. Yeah, they do. So is 815-200. They pretty much said as much. Go ahead, Susie.
I was just saying, I have few friends who are Republican, and they consider themselves fiscally Republican. And they've done so much for me, and I love them as well. Mm-hmm. It's very, very difficult to toe that line. But a lot of it, too, is our narrative, right? I had a client recently who, diehard Republican, and he kept saying, and we don't talk about politics in therapy, right? But he was using words like, the extreme left. The whatever left,
Pinkos,
everything.
Lefties,
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Extreme left. And I was like, okay, how about we remove extreme right or extreme left, right? Ultimately, we're just people trying to improve our lives every day, and we want that through different means, but we're still people. And so, the wording is very important. In terms of just realizing, more than them or us, we are people.
Yeah,
right. And just and what about respect? Can we speak to each other? Noted, it's extremely difficult. But this person and I were at least able to just have respectful conversations once we removed that. And for mental health purposes, once I asked him how about you just give the news a break? And he's like, oh, you're trying to turn me into a Dem. No, I'm not. How about you just give
news makes them a Dem?
Yeah, well, no, taking
information.
Just give yourself a break, a mental break. Right. And then so resistance, right? Of course, you're trying to make me into a Dem. And then he eventually agreed after 1 week, no news. And he admitted and I get that. I felt better. Yeah. You feel better.
Yeah, I just, at this point, in this moment in history, for people who are still looking at all of this and voted for this, and maybe they themselves are not Nazis, but they're not even Nazi adjacent. Now they're Nazi apologists. And it's
hard.
Yeah. Let me take a break. I've got to take a break here. We'll come back in just a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. I know the phone lines are full, but give us a call. I think we got 1 or 2 lines open, 773-763-9278. More in a moment with Dr. Susana Flores, the author of Face Hooked and Untamed, and Elliott Serrano, who is a fill-in host here at WCPT, as well as a writer of the Grumpy Cat Adventures. Oh, look at that. I got something right. That's not always often.
Tom Hartman.
Autocrats generally, particularly those autocrats who have narcissistic personality disorder and are sociopaths, as is, in my opinion, Trump, typically do not tolerate high-profile people around them. They want to be the star of the show, and that's certainly been the history of Donald Trump. The only people that he will tolerate around him are people who, when he says, kiss my ass, they fall to their knees.
The Tom Hartman Radio Program, weekdays 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on WCPT 820, where facts matter. Hey, Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
Listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
And live with us are Dr. Susana Flores, author of Untamed and Facehooked, as well as Elliott Serrano, fill-in host here at WCPT and the author of The Grumpy Cat Adventures. I wonder what Grumpy Cat would have to say about all of the things that are going on right now. So,
pretty easy. She go. Democracy is terrible.
Let's get to Chris out of Chicago. Hey, Chris, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi. So I've been reading a lot about the Canada as the 51st state proposal from Trump, which is ridiculous, but it's kind of turned into another topic that is really interesting where Canada is saying, hey, blue states, we'll take you guys, and you can become, a part of Canada. So it started off as a joke, but I think it's really like gaining traction on all these, platforms that you're talking about with California, Washington, Oregon, Minnesota, maybe Wisconsin, maybe Michigan, New England, New York, becoming part of Canada. And I know it sounds crazy and it sounds irrational, but at the same time, I feel like we are so culturally and politically apart right now that, Canada is exactly what Democrats want. We want universal health care. We want strict gun laws. We want, pro-choice. We want all the things that they already have. And if Republicans hate us that much, well, then goodbye.
Canada is problematic.
Another country.
Canada is problematic in its own way. And look, I think the problem is that we come at this as Republicans and Democrats, right? Because right now the two-party system is what dominates. Of course, we've tried to have third party, and that was thanks Ralph Nader. That was a lot of fun. And Jill Stein, go to hell. But we are where we are currently, and I think that as Democrats, we try to work within. I know that it probably feels like to Republicans that we want to impose some sort of morality on them when it comes to some of the things that you've talked about, having single-payer health care, having access to abortion care, regulating gun ownership. Like that, I guess that feels to them. But when you are actually hurting people and emboldening people there were a family of 3 in Milwaukee that were arrested because they were speaking Spanish, and they were American citizens. They were Puerto Ricans. When you have someone pulled over by someone pretending to be a cop, and they take the driver's keys and says, tell me in the 4 years, I guess they'll say the masks and the vaccinations, which was we suffered more than any other first world country in the world when it came to fatalities and in the level of contagion. It's hard. And here's what I think is the big problem, not just here in the United States, but globally, is the oligarchy, is the billionaires, the corporations that are pitting us and creating a lot of these social wars, dividing us even deeper. And I think that's something that we don't know how to tackle. We don't know. I think a lot of people are are moving with their wallets with where they shop. I know that I'm going to be doing more shopping at Costco, less at Walmart and Target and Amazon. There's a website called goodsuniteus.com that you can, if you're shopping and you're like, oh, is this brand somebody that donates more to Democrats or Republicans? You can do that. So those are some of the ways that I see that. But no, I don't see us going to Canada. Do you want to go to Canada? Do you want to become Canada?
Mexico.
You'd rather go to Mexico?
I'd rather go to Mexico. Personally,
Canada's nice, though. I like Canada.
I've never been to Canada.
Never Toronto, over there on the East Coast.
Never been.
It's like New York North.
Yeah. They really do have their own complications, I think. And there's these 2 British guys that I follow on TikTok. I've ever seen. They love the United States. They defend the United States about how we're thought of as being stupid and not geographically intelligent, all these things, right? But they talk about how, to our caller's point, this is a massive country with state to state. When you see all those those questionnaires about who food from different areas, he's not wrong in that sense. The thing that does unite us, I guess, is this idea of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. And now we have this very complicated relationship with how we understand that to have a role in our lives.
Wasn't the Constitution removed from the website?
Sure was. Yeah.
Yep.
All right. So for all my callers, we can't. I've got to limit this to like about 2 minutes per call because we are having a conversation. I want my callers to remember that. So I say that because I don't know who to start with here. Who's been on hold the longest? Let me see. It would be.
I think it's Paul in Seattle.
No, it's actually Dave in Hoffman Estates. It's 23 minutes.
Oh,
hey, Dave.
Wow.
In Hoffman Estates, you're on with Dr. Susana Flores and Elliott Serrano and myself. What's up?
Hey, Patty, long time. Yeah, that protest you're talking about, like I was telling Lady B, how tone deaf are Durbin and Duckworth that you got to actually go down and start protesting to give them a kick in the backside to do what they were elected to do?
Yeah, look, I have felt this way. I have felt this way even before this. I felt this way when they wouldn't allow Merrick Garland's hearings. And Duckworth wasn't there, but Durbin was. And they were all like, well, we want to maintain the norms, the traditions. And then Durbin demanding Al Franken resign made me friggin' nuts.
And, I mean, they've been quiet through all of this other stuff. Yep. But seeing the short time kind of got me to reading and thinking of this one. I'm sure you all have heard it. That First They Came by Pastor Martin Niemöller back in 1946 in Germany.
Yeah.
Said, first they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist.
We know. Here's the problem: we are paying attention, and the people who are not willfully ignorant of what's happening. I appreciate the quote, but the thing is that we've got to have people in there like firebrands. I think the people who agree with that quote are paying attention. But I'm saying we have to leave the other people behind and have conversations. What are we going to do next? And
I think we need to primary these people. I mean, Durbin's 80?
Here's the thing that we're talking about in 2 years, right? The next elections. We need to figure. But Dave, I'm sorry, Dave. I'm a little fired up. I apologize for that. How are you doing today, David? All right, good to hear from you. Fundamentally, I think that people need to participate in their communities, find out what food banks need, what the people who are in danger of being rounded up, find out who is in danger. To your point about first they came. Well, then don't wait for the next group. We need to be fortifying and supporting the people who are most at risk right now. So the voting part, I agree.
I know. We got to get a voice.
I know.
We didn't let them. But hey, do you think Trump is really eating this stuff up about the tariff? Figured he's bluffing and seeing these other.
They're claiming victory. They're claiming victory and are saying they're claiming victory because their base is that dumb. I got to run, Dave.
Yeah,
thanks.
Got it.
Bye.
All right.
Let me get to Paul in Seattle is next. Hey, Paul, what's on your mind?
Yeah, their base is that dumb. And, I have to say, Trump wants to get rid of DEI.
Diversity, inclusion, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We need to start saying all the words. They want to get rid of diversity, equity, and inclusion, which includes people of color, women, veterans, people with disabilities. So I think that we shorten it to where it becomes, because CRT was a thing before, and they couldn't make that stick because no one understood it. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Say it all. Go ahead.
Right. And so then he nominated Pete Hegseth, and now we have DUI.
Oh, I see. You want to make the joke where it has to be DEI. All right, fine. All right.
He's been waiting for this. He's been waiting all day for this.
But Patty, if you explain the joke.
Driving under the influence. Say driving under the influence.
Let Paul have his moment.
Dictators under the influence.
Ooh, that's good.
Okay. That's a whole show.
Do you remember when I said that in New Orleans? We should call it the ugliarchy. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead. We're having a different show. Go ahead.
Comedians always hate when callers make jokes. I know. But anyway, wait for that all.
Good. Well, because we try to tee it up for each other, and I hate it when people step on my jokes too. So I appreciate that.
I get it. But for this guy Dexter in the 815 who wants to own the libs, look at this. We have Elon Musk, an immigrant, is controlling the flow of allocated funds that Congress allocated, so that Trump doesn't want to spend them. And see, this is actually against the law. It's a violation of the Congressional Budget and Impoundment Act of 1974. This is what Nixon tried to do. And the Supreme Court actually sided with the Congress and said, no, if you take money that Congress has allocated, you have to spend it. You can't just sit on it. Okay, but here's the problem. This is a problem for Democrats. And why does it matter? Why does the congressional elections matter? Because when the Republicans are in control of both houses of Congress, both chambers of Congress, so Democrats can't take this to court because it has to be either the Speaker of the House or the President of the Senate, and so Democrats they don't have standing to take it to court, and they would win because it is a violation of the Congressional Budget in the impoundment part of Title X, the Impoundment Act of the Congressional Budget Act, and Richard Nixon eventually had to sign it, and just 3 weeks before he resigned.
Wow!
But then you got this. Now this guy who thinks that Democrats just lie. Okay, let's look at tariffs. Here's how tariffs are going to make prices go up. All prices go up. So let's say you have a tariff that's just what?
I don't have a lot of time, and here's the thing. If you want to explain it to the guy in the 815, it doesn't matter. Like, we've had these conversations about who ends up paying for the tariffs. So over-explaining it makes no... That's why we just have to laugh in their faces, and here's what I say to the 815. That's all I got for him. I got to run to the break, Paul. I appreciate you breaking it down for us, but I'm short on time. Thank you, my friend. Take care. That was not for Paul. That was for the 815-200. More in a moment on WCPT 820, our land signal.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
There's so much that goes on behind closed doors.
On WCPT 820.
I think I need to let folks know, because I have in the studio with me two guests, including guest co-host Elliott Serrano. So I'm trying to limit the amount of time for calls. I want you to share what your thoughts are, and then let us talk about it. So I don't want my friends to feel like I cut them off. But let me start with Cindy in Michigan. Cindy, you're on with me and Elliott Serrano and Dr. Susana Flores. What's on your mind, my friend?
Hi. Well, you were kind of alluding to, mental health and all of this. Yes. And because your friend is there. And both friends, but especially one that's, a professional. Yes. You're a professional. And I could use some professional. No.
We all could.
I go to a professional. Yeah, I go to a professional. And it's the best thing I could ever do. But right now, for me, and I told this...
No! I wanted to hear the question.
What happened?
Oh, no. I didn't touch anything. Cindy,
I really wanted to hear this one, too.
Oh, really?
No.
Call back, Cindy.
What's she going to say? Okay, let's see if we can get Cindy back. Cindy, call back. Maybe if you call back, we might be able to fix that. Let me take another call. Let me try again.
Okay.
Cindy. Oh, no. There you are. Okay, go ahead.
Am I there?
You said no one. Everyone's telling me. Yeah, you are here. Hi, Cindy. Go ahead.
Okay, so I will proceed. The thing that I was saying to my own therapist was that the best thing I could do for my mental health at this time and all this political stuff is I got to call a thing a thing.
Yes.
When I'm with people that are doing that whole, well, he's not so bad. Trump's, I have a friend of mine who does that. It goes round and round in circles. And I just tell her, I can't go there with you. I said, whatever you're doing, I cannot go there with you.
That's not bad. That's
and
good.
I'm just very plain. That's it. I said, I can't go there with you. I've known you for years, and here's what I would say. Have I ever lied to you? And she would have to say no. I said, other than about my weight and my age, have I ever lied to you?
And maybe my hair color.
She says no, because we've known each other 30 years. And
yet,
she goes, no, you've never lied to me. And I said, so why would I start now? And it stopped her cold in her tracks. Now, she didn't just suddenly become a Democrat, but she had to take it on a certain level. Cindy's being straight with me. And I got to think about that. It did give her some pause. It did help our relationship a little bit so that we weren't constantly at loggerheads about this, because she will bring it up. She'll always bring stuff up. Every time there's somebody she thinks is she goes, so-and-so is wasting Medicare funds or something. I'm going to have to tell Elon about this because he's going to know about waste.
Okay,
calling him right now.
Cindy.
Yeah.
Cindy. I don't want to call your friend names, but I mean, like, that's really stupid.
She's gullible. She's gullible. I will say that. She is very gullible. She's been gullible about a lot of things. But she's a sweet person and a good person. And I don't want to just,
cut her out.
dump her.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, so this is a person that actually listened to you.
Yeah.
Like willing to listen.
Yeah.
That's introspection. Introspection is like, could it be me, or is there another point of view that I might be able to consider? And usually like people that are more mature or evolved, I don't want to use this word, but or at least like emotionally like evolved or intellectually involved, like, you have to consider other points of view. Can I watch, or here's a big one. This is hard for a lot of people. Can I watch the other network even for like 5 minutes just to see what's happening over there?
Mm-hmm. I don't need to.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it was really hard. It's really super hard.
What would you say is like...
I'll at least check the weather.
I would still compare it to the truth.
I'll put my... I try to do at least that. I think that's pretty healthy. So check the weather over there.
There you go.
And again, I'm not going to try to make myself do a lot of stuff that at the end of the day, I'm worn out.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No, you can't. And I told my friend Dan Schaefer that he cannot, he watches Fox News to see what they're talking about. And it's like, and then it's just not, I don't think it's healthy. For anybody, anybody.
Avoid the opinion shows. If you have to watch Fox, watch the actual news.
Except for mine.
Right. I mean, but the news folks, which are, begrudgingly, they can do a good job on the news end. But if you watch the opinion shows or like the Fox and Friends, they're in another reality there. So
I've had friends and clients, like they get their news from funny shows like The Daily Show or something.
Daily Show, yeah.
Yeah, because it makes it like, okay, I am informed, but it's a little, at least they make it funny in a way. So like I could tolerate it more emotionally.
Yeah.
I actually find out more that way because I'm getting more of the subcontext of what's going on besides just a headline or somebody's one opinion.
Right.
When I listen to Colbert or any of those shows, or like Patty's show.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, well, and that's the thing. And even with this, I mean, pace yourselves throughout the day of listening to WCPT and shows that agree with you, because it's a lot. We're all reacting emotionally, and don't limit yourself. Then come back and listen to our podcasts.
And Patty,
yes.
Remember to pace yourself too.
Okay, I know well, that's why I went to Los Angeles and New Orleans.
There you go.
Was my pacing.
You're on the edge already.
What?
You're back.
Cindy, thanks so much for calling, and my best to your friend, I guess.
You.
Let me know what Elon says to her.
Tell us all.
Let's get to Dan. This is an important story that I haven't even touched on too much, but tell us what's on your mind, Dan.
Well, one thing is we're moving to a red state. We can do that. We can afford it. We're retiring. We're in a slower pace of life. We're moving to Dubuque, which is bluish.
Okay.
But they lost, the 2nd District lost their Democrat in 2020. Our goal is to get that back. But
nice.
Feel, felt, found. Okay, feel, felt, found. When people say, whatever thing they say, I know how you feel. Sometimes taxes do feel like theft. I'd like all my money. And I felt that way, too. But what I found is I like potholes filled.
Right.
We started potholes. We started things we can agree on. Isn't it terrible that we have homeless vets? Mm-hmm. And they'll say, well, we're feeding immigrants. I said, well, we're rich enough. We can do both. And I'm okay with prioritizing vets. But what do you think we should do? And they'll give you an answer. And I said, I know how you feel. This is frustrating. But you know what I found was a city like Salt Lake City found homeless people were more expensive on the street than they were in homes.
There you go.
Really? I said, yeah. And, Salt Lake City's pretty conservative. And then I throw a bone to Mormons who we
don't really understand. I said, they're very charitable people.
I'm sure my brother appreciates that. I'll let you do him a bone. I agree with you. There's a reason I'm not a Mormon anymore. I'll just say that.
Well, that's fine. There's a lot of other things going on with Mormonism.
Yes, there is.
They tend to be pretty charitable, and they're very transactional. They're good business people a lot of times. And so they go, look, we get them off the streets. We spend less on policing, ER visits, psychiatric help. And then they go back out on the street. They get sick or whatever, mentally ill.
And they go to hospitals.
Or they become bad in them.
Right.
And we have to do the same cycle. If we can get folks a place, that stability, Maslow's hierarchy, they're fed, and things change. No one's going to disagree with you on that. How would you feel if you were outside in the cold? And so we have to start with the problem, not the solution, because the solution for many of my right-wing friends is rugged individualism while they're collecting their Medicaid and WIC money.
Exactly. I've got to run to the break. My apologies. Thank you so much for calling in, Dan. Look forward to hearing you again. And Iowa is flippable, according to our friends texting in. More in a moment with Dr. Susana Flores and Elliott Serrano. We'll be joined by Jen Zanotti to talk about some Motivational Monday topics. And our listeners who are on hold, I will get to your calls after that conversation. More in a moment on WCPT 820, Heartland Signal.
This is WCPT 820. Where facts matter.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez, Patti Vasquez.
From global conflicts to greenhouse gases, the folks refusing to wear masks says, and politicians getting caught grabbing ass says, she's driving it home with Patti Vasquez.
Hey, everybody. I want to say hello to our friends listening on KTNF, AM 950, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota. And, of course, listening here on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal in Chicago. For folks who perhaps want to find other ways to listen to us, we also have availability on the TuneIn app, Spotify. You can watch us live. Tech is up. We've been, our friend was telling us that we are and have been the whole show on YouTube. So if you ever have trouble, double check. If you're not getting us on one platform, double check on the other, YouTube or Facebook. And of course, all of our shows are podcasts, including highlighted interviews for each one of our shows, for me, Joan, and Richard Chu. And don't forget, tomorrow on Richard Chu's show, Richard Chu's Views, he'll be joined by Holly Kim, candidate for Lake County Treasurer. We have to pay attention to these local elections. I know folks are talking about what's going to happen in the midterms, but there are elections happening in Illinois, Wisconsin, across the Midwest on April 1st. Of course, we'll be going to Wisconsin to help out with the Supreme Court race as Judge Susan Crawford is vying for that seat. And on Joan Esposito's show from 2 to 5, Professor Joel Ostro will be, I'm sure he'll have a lot to say about what happened today with U.S. aid and other funding that Ukraine relies on. Of course, it's a Jones show from 2 to 5, Richard Chu from 6 to 8 a.m. Joining me in studio is Dr. Susana Flores. She's a psychologist as well as an author of the books Face Hooked, really at the forefront of how our brain chemistry changes on social media platforms, as well as the book Untamed, and working on another book that my friends in LA, I didn't tell you my friends in LA know you because they're the voices of a lot of characters that also go to Comic-Cons. So my friend Marta Carlo is the voice of Jimmy Neutron's dad. Yenny Alvarez is the voice of, anytime you go to Disney World, all the instructions in Spanish are Yenny's. She's also Sparkle in Lego in the Spanish version. She's got a ton of work. She's in Monsters High. Just it goes on and on. So I think both of you need to be going to Comic-Cons, hanging out with Mark and Yenny. Elliott Serrano, who also writes the book, writes the adventures, the Grumpy Cat Adventures. The
Adventures of Grumpy Cat, yes.
I'll get it right someday. And he's also a fill-in host here on WCPT. And another friend of mine, now I have to get to the point where Dr. Flores and Jen Zanotti meet each other, because Jen Zanotti is our positivity expert for Motivational Monday.
We need that.
Right? And I don't, so sometimes I start her segment with a little bit of
we do need some like calming candles in here or something.
Wait, is Elliott in studio?
Yes. I'm here. Yes, Jen.
Oh my gosh, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. But I'm going to tell you, Patty has been so wound up. I'm talking.
But I feel good in a good way. Aren't I wound up in a good way, Doc?
You could hook up. If I had a cable, I could plug into her. She'd light up like Las Vegas right now.
I agree with that.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
I got massages every day when I was in Los Angeles, and I meditated with a Doberman Pinscher every day. So I think.
Cute Doberman, by the way.
Wow.
Yes.
You're spunky right now.
Spunky, yeah.
Spunky
I'm fired up. I'm ready for what's next for the rest of my life. I'm sorry. Which is why I
the
want
rest of your life.
This is not 4 years.
Yeah.
This is 50 years. When I'm 100, I'll still be doing this. So too bad to the
I do not plan to be around at 100.
I know. Peace out. So because I am gearing up for the rest of my life of planning and fighting and those kinds of things, I need to know how to set my pace. I mean, I'm being realistic. This isn't like I got to get through the next week or the next month. I need a sustainable rhythm. So what do you recommend for folks like me who realize we're in this for the long haul?
I think to take a breath would be the first thing. Working on your breath work. And I think to come up with a little bit of a plan and goals and pace things out a little bit. I think we talked about last week, too, about the positive impact you can make in dealing with stress. Of course, these are stressful times. There's a lot of emotions, anxiety, negativity. So trying to figure out how you as an individual can make an impact, can stay positive. We need to feel those feelings, but now you're kind of in this state where you have all this energy, it seems, and you want to just move forward and take some action. So you also, want to sustain that because that can be hard and that can be tiring. So I think coming up with a little bit of a game plan of what do you want to see big picture, right? So maybe years from now, but what steps can you take daily, weekly, monthly to get there and just kind of manage that action, manage that stress a little bit. And we've talked about so many times in just managing the stress. Sure, there's breath work, but also meditation as you talked about, talking to others, friends, community, people, family, to come together in these times. Make sure you're journaling, make sure you're getting in movement, right? So all those things I think are really important to be able to kind of help us manage some of that a little bit.
You know what I tell my patients too is when you're having a really especially bad day, asking yourself, what level of control do I have right now? Right. Because in the long run, it's okay, you can vote, you can protest, you can write your senators or your congresspeople, right? And beyond that, not that much else. So what can I do today to take care of myself? Or redirect that, and love what you said, towards redirecting that towards positive action and motivation. Either what can I do about it, or relinquishing at least some of that stress of I cannot change the world right now, but I can do some things. I can talk to people. I can whatever, right?
I love that. And one of the things I talk about with even a lot of my fitness clients and nutrition clients is detachment. And I think right now, too, that's something where it's not saying, if you don't care or you're being cold, but I think detaching from certain things, like you just said, doctor, that's great. If things we can't control, right, to be able to kind of detach from it and let it go at the moment and look at the things that, are important to us in the immediate present, the things that we can control. What positive things can we do for ourselves, for our loved ones in that moment? So I think kind of detaching from some of the things that we can't control can really help manage our stress.
And I think that's kind of in my last hour, we were having some conversations, people who want to explain, right? And I had to pause the conversation because I think that's part of the problem is thinking we have to convince people of something. And I don't, I think deciding what battles you are no longer going to fight is important too. Letting go of thinking you can win an argument or use facts or the truth, because the truth of the matter is, as you said, is what can I fundamentally do? And part of that is writing, making plans, because that was what has been done for over 50 years to bring us to this point. They didn't care about convincing us of anything. So it's do the work, do whatever that is in your community with organizations that are, whether it's a food pantry, a farmer's market, whether it's, homeless shelters, immigration groups, do that and learn from that too. You know what I'm saying? It's not just doing it to feel better, but it's also learning about what kind of tools are used in organizing, don't you think?
Absolutely. And I think, as you say, it's hard because I think sometimes people's natural instinct, especially on social media platforms, is to try to convince or try to justify or get into an argument, and we've talked about that just not being so healthy. And what is that changing, right? And so I kind of came up with this list, too, for people to just help manage stress a little bit, but to maybe, get away from social media a little bit or, the news or, devices, right? So just, volunteering, I think, and that's something I have written down. That's a great thing that you can do to be able to get out into your community, right? And make an impact. But also, reading, maybe joining a book club, right? Reading up on topics that may be helpful in taking positive steps forward. Going out and even taking a painting class or drawing or doing that on your own time at your house. Nice. Or photography, right? Taking photos, capturing things that are going on in the present outside. We all know exercise, right? Fitness, of course, I would say jiu-jitsu, but we talk about that all the time. Cooking, right? Take that time for yourself to just cook with a loved one, cook with friends. But that takes you away from social media. That's putting you into a different hobby, a different activity, nourishing your body, having fun with that. Music. I didn't watch the Grammys, but I saw Alicia Keys had won this Dr. Dre Award, and she gave a speech. And she was addressing some of the things that were going on, currently. But she was talking about how music is the language that connects us all, and it's just beautiful. So being able to, connect with others, connect with yourself, find songs that you connect to, music, just sitting down and actually listening to music and not doing anything else. We had friends over and did that on Saturday night, and that was just amazing. We put on some, vinyl and records and just listened, and it was awesome. Being able to just write, we talk about journaling, but, even taking that a step further, if you want to experience, your emotions on a different level, or your experiences, your life, your journey, and just kind of documenting that a little bit, and trying to write or doing some creative writing, some poems, whatever it may be. But I think that's kind of a good list. And, this will be on a device, but even movies, shows, that's something that can kind of, take you away from the current news, the social media, the stress, but enjoying that with friends, with a loved one, by yourself, just kind of being able to zone out a little bit, do something for yourself, some self-care, and just kind of extract yourself from those things.
I recommend Deadpool and Wolverine for a movie distraction. I just wanted to share that because I'm a Wolverine super fan. I just thought about this in terms of changing mindset. One of my favorite concepts in psychology is radical acceptance. I don't know if you guys are familiar, but radical acceptance is the total and complete acceptance of a situation as it stands. Now that seems common sense enough, but people think okay, if I accept a situation, then I'm okay with it, and that's not true in the theory, right? Two things can exist at the same time. So it removes us from it gets us to a place of this is what is, at least right now, this is the situation. It removes us from the woulda, coulda, shoulda. This shouldn't be happening. We know it shouldn't be happening, right? But that's what affects us emotionally and cognitively in negative ways. And you're trying to reason your way out of it, and you're trying to process or figure out how we got there. That's not useful right now. Right. So when we can radically accept, and it's a journey, I'm not expecting people to have the come to Jesus moment today, right? It is a journey, and it can take sometimes weeks, months, and sometimes even years, hopefully not years, right? But you get to a point when you fully accept that this has happened, then it gets you to the point of, now what?
Right.
What do I do about it, instead of like festering over like what could have been or what should have been?
Well, and I think that was why when the results were what they were in November and in December, because the hardest part was I wanted to be ready for what's coming, but then you have to imagine what's coming, which is debilitating. So what I could plan for was how was I going to manage the first 2 weeks, and that's when I made plans to go to New Orleans. I made plans to go to Los Angeles, and I will tell you, I know I come in amped, and Elliott's like she's fired up, but I think it would have been a different energy if I'd had to do this for the last 2 weeks. It would have been, now I wanted to manage my own rhythm in the middle of all this. And
we need breaks. We need breaks from this.
Right. And I have the privilege of having friends who live in these beautiful towns, so I could stay with them. So it worked out for me. I only ate out once in Los Angeles, really.
It was great for us too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. But that's, and traveling too, if you can, even if it's just like going to someplace else, on Metro or something, right? Take yourself out of your routine.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. It is, we're constantly regardless of what's going on right now, I think, especially here in the United States, we are like constant go, 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 go.
Right.
And sometimes that's great when you have the momentum and you're trying to accomplish goals and crush things, but like, you can't, you have to allow yourself a break. You have to do that for your mindset, for your body, right? And I think it's good to, if you can't, set up a vacation right now, sure, maybe like going to another town, right, and experiencing something, or going away for like just a long weekend, going to Wisconsin, going to Door County or whatever, Michigan, somewhere close that you can drive. But I think it's so powerful to have that reset, and it's so needed, and we have to schedule that. I'm a huge scheduler and super organized, but you even have to schedule in that downtime, because otherwise you're not going to get it, and it's essential.
But it also gives you something to look forward to, right? So some of my some of my relaxing was, what am I going to do in New Orleans? Where can I go? Where can I walk the dog? I'm dog sitting in Los Angeles. So it gives me something else to relieve that tension and stress of the day to day. So, by the way, Jen, are you traveling to Chicago anytime soon again? When will we see you next?
I am. I'll be there February 19th to the 24th.
Excellent. All right, I'm gonna try to get on.
We'll have to coordinate.
If you're doing jiu-jitsu, maybe I'll try to come out and take a class or something. If you have something for me.
Yeah, I'll actually be teaching a class at Bender Martial Arts in Chicago. And I'll, of course, be visiting my coach's gym at Seraphin, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in Evanston at some point, too. So we'll definitely, maybe you can come out to the class, too, that I'm teaching.
Mostly I need a pedicure before I do all that.
That's where your brain goes?
Because inevitably there's pictures and you see, your gnarly toes and you're like, oh, God.
I think you're missing the point. But okay.
There's a foot in the face, it's all, you want to make sure you're nice and
there is that. Okay.
It's aggressive cuddling is the way Jen describes jiu-jitsu. Where can folks find out more about the great work you do? Where do you want to direct them?
They can go to my website, allthingsgenz.com, Jenz, or Instagram at allthingsgenz, and also to my YouTube, the same channel, All Things Gen Z, for all my jiu-jitsu technique videos.
Excellent. Thank you so much for your insight, your expertise, and your calming voice. We appreciate it. And we'll talk to you again next week, my friend.
Okay, sounds good. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Bye. Before we take a break, I just want to let folks know I will get to the calls when we come back from this break, so thank you for holding on. And coming up at 6:30, we're going to talk to Joyce Mahoney, who is the Regional Vice President of Memory Care and Programming at Belmont Village Senior Living. So if you have questions about aging, memory care, maybe you're a caregiver and you have something that's been on your mind or you wondered about, feel free to call in while we're talking to Joyce, and we would love to have that conversation. More in a moment on WCPT 820. Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul. We're in studio with Elliott Serrano, guest fill-in host here at WCPT and author of Adventures of Grumpy Cat, and Dr. Susana Flores. She's a psychologist. She's also the author of Face Hooked and Untamed, The Psychology of Wolverine.
Yes.
I got it.
Close enough.
Okay.
We should write this down for her.
I know. Right?
I know. I try to go off cuff, and
you missed one word.
What was it?
Marvel's Wolverine.
Marvel's
Wolverine.
But still, people know. People know who he is.
Not the football players from Michigan. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue to drive it home. It got very chilly in Chicago. I feel like I've been all over literally all over the map when it comes to temperatures.
Oh, really?
It was like 50 degrees the last couple of days. There was a point where it was only 4 degrees warmer in Los Angeles than it was here.
Oh, really?
Wow.
Well, I appreciated the colder weather because my backyard was frozen. So when my dog would go out back, she wouldn't come back in with muddy paws.
Oh.
And then it got warm, and all the ice melted. And my dog loves burying stuff. I'm telling you, the messes I've had to clean up the last couple days.
Oh, God. The melting.
With her.
Miss Money Penny.
We're going to talk about dogs in a little bit after we talk to our memory care guest, because I want to share something with you guys and get your opinion on when someone dog sits. With
Mojo?
Mojo. And even when someone tries to take a dog for a walk and they refuse to go because mommy's not there.
Yeah,
let's get to our listeners. Roosevelt's been on hold for a very long time. Roosevelt, how are you doing, my friend? Thank you for holding on.
Patty.
Hey, Roosevelt.
Can you hear me?
Yeah. Yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
I want to go way back to the beginning of the show, and one of you or somebody had questioned about us as Latinos or Mexican American. Did we get the message about Trump, saying that he was going to deport and do all this and that and all this and that? Well, the way I see it is it's like saying, didn't the women get the message? The white women get the message?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah.
So what happens here is the main thing is that how they get their information. That goes across the board. If somebody watches Fox News, they're going to think and don't watch anything else. It's nothing. I'm not revealing anything new. It's the same thing in Spanish. If you guys ever get a chance, I don't know if there's a translation way you could watch it, but to give you an example, it was reported that the deal that they made between the Mexican president and Trump is not only to put 10,000 soldiers from the Mexican side across the border to stop fentanyl, but she also said that you need to stop your guns coming to Mexico and basically terrorizing that small town.
She also said you needed to look at the root causes of why people are taking drugs. She talked about the synthetic opioids. I mean, she went on a tirade about it.
Right, and it's not just coming from Mexico either. Exactly. It's mostly other countries.
Thank you guys for helping me out with this. And let me tell you one thing. Most of America didn't hear that part. Am I correct?
Yeah.
They heard that the Mexican president put soldiers there and basically that's it, to stop the fentanyl. Generally, the deal wasn't completely revealed because of what I just said. Now, don't you think it would make a difference if that is reported? I guarantee you that wasn't mentioned.
Maybe.
Again, I'm not as far as how the truth is shared, because it's a done deal. The media outlets have bent the knee; they're licking the boot in many ways, and so again, I come back to what can we fundamentally do as far as you're talking about educating people. If they don't want to know the truth, if they rely on Fox or the half truths or the lies that are being spread by mainstream media, I can't make myself crazy over that. I know it's frustrating. I know you listen to a lot of Spanish-speaking radio, and I know you get in there and you mix it up and you try to share the truth, and that's great. And I think you should keep doing that. It's not the lane that I can occupy.
But luckily, it's not only me. There's two other gentlemen. There's two other gentlemen on a daily basis that basically say the things that I say and the things that are not. The only reason I'm still in that, calling is because they welcome me, because I am the bridge between the typical Mexican American, which thinks this way. This is just me, my opinion. I'm 68 years old. I've been watching all these elections. I've been watching it. I have people that came here without papers and were deported twice, 3 times, and they came back. So the point I'm trying to make is, in general, the Mexican that comes here without paper comes with the concept that both governments are the same, meaning the American government, the U.S. government, and the Mexican government, and they don't work that way. You know, here it's hard to convince a typical person that came from Mexico or was born in Mexico that both parties are not the same, meaning the Democrats and the Republicans. And I've tried to prove it.
I got to run to one more call before we get our guest on, Roosevelt. So I applaud you for fighting the good fight. I just would say pace yourself, because I don't know how much it cuts through. And again, I try to manage the things that I can fundamentally have a positive impact on. And that's showing up for other Democratic organizations, for neighborhood organizations. But I've got to run. Roosevelt, I'll talk to you again soon, my friend.
Can I say something real quick?
Okay.
5 seconds. Did you guys hear about the boycott of Mexican? Today was a day without an immigrant. Did you guys know about that?
Yeah, I'm not sure how it went, but we'll talk about it tomorrow, I'm sure, and see what the results were, the fallout from that. Thank you so much, Roosevelt. I know your son's protesting. I wish him the best, and I hope he's safe. Let me get to Myrna. Myrna, what's on your mind, my friend?
Hi, 3 things. Elliott, it's not hard. It's not always easy to discuss with someone who is refusing to listen. So some of us do try to share our view of things, but the supporters, the Latino supporters for Trump, they're not patient and they don't want to hear anything. So it's not that we don't make an effort, it's that they don't want to listen. And it's hard to talk to someone who's not educated enough to listen to you. Second thing, we have a refinery in Whiting, our neighbor, Indiana. They are the 6th largest refinery in the United States. BP Amoco processes, I'm not sure how many states worth of oil, and Canada is the country that provides for them. They provide over 80% of the oil that they refine. 25% tariff is a killer, because that's, like I say, it's the 6th largest refinery in the United States. As far as the president of Mexico, people assume because she's a woman that she's not intelligent enough. She is excuse me, hold on. Excuse me. She is a doctor, believe it or not. She also shared trying to read this, it's a little too close for me. She's actually Dr. Not just president, but Dr. Claudia Sheinbaum. Her mom was a biologist. Her dad also I think he was a chemical engineer. So she comes from an educated family. And like I said, she was one of several Nobel Prize winners in 2007 for the United Nations Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change.
Excellent. She is amazing. Yep.
No, she's and I appreciate the way that she's trying to school Donald. I've got to run because I've got a guest coming up, Myrna. So thank you so much for holding on so long. I appreciate it. All right, take care. Bye. Let's take a break here. We'll continue our conversation. I'm curious as to why our caller on hold also called my business phone. So I'm going to call him and find out more about that in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. We'll talk to Joyce Mahoney from Belmont Villages and talk about senior care, memory care, and maybe you're a caregiver and have questions. Let us know. 773-763-9278. More in a moment on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Driving it home with Patti Vasquez on WCPT 820.
Thank you you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home on KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul, and here in Chicago on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal. Joining us in studio are Elliott Serrano, who's the author of The Grumpy Cat Adventures, as well as a guest fill-in host here at WCPT, Dr. Susana Flores, who is a psychologist and the author of Face Hooked and Untamed, the psychology of Wolverine, Marvel's Wolverine.
Thank you.
And I'm excited to be joined by Joyce Mahoney, who we've had on the show before to talk about aging, about memory care. And Joyce, we welcome you back to the show and are looking forward to having somewhat regular conversations with you. How are you doing tonight?
Yes. Hi, Patty. I'm doing well, thank you. It's good to be back.
Thank you. I think I mentioned this last time you were on the air because all three of us, I believe, Elliott, Dr. Flores, and myself, have moms who maybe in varying stages of proximity that we're helping out in different ways. And something that struck me recently is I want to also talk about the not just caregiving, but also the process of ourselves aging because we're all in our 50s, and I think we need to be mindful.
I'm 26. I don't know what you're talking about.
But I want, because I think that there's a perspective that we sometimes miss as we get older, because we love our parents, we want the best for them. We also want the best for ourselves, both emotionally and physically, right?
Absolutely. We have to take a look at how we age, how well we're aging, if we're aging successfully, and what that all looks like. In every decade of life, absolutely.
And I know that, as I mentioned, none of us are necessarily caregivers to our parents, but we provide emotional support in a lot of ways. But the growing number of caregivers in this country is going through the roof, and we're in a caregiver crisis, aren't we?
We really are. The number of caregivers among U.S. adults is nearly 48 million. 48 million of them are caregivers. And what we're finding is a vast majority of them, approximately about 26%, are actually supporting loved ones who have Alzheimer's or another related type of dementia. And really trying to balance and juggle day-to-day life with family, with friends, with their work, but also providing the care and the support for their loved ones. That's a big challenge in our country nowadays. So it is really a big struggle. So when we're talking about ourselves as being caregivers to whomever, whether it's a family member or someone else that's close to us, what does that look like? And how do we care for ourselves while we're caring for someone else?
It's tough.
It's a struggle.
Yeah, I'm getting to the point of being a caretaker. Like I'm like a hiccup away. And I have to move to Chicago from New Orleans. Like, New Orleans is my heart right now. And of course, I'm a Chicagoan. Chicagoan always has my heart. Chicago always has my heart. But it's a difficult transition. But when I visited my parents a few months ago, like, I realized they can't live alone. Like, there were unpaid bills. There were, like, it was like a fiasco of things. Like, they're not functioning the way they usually do function. And they're older. They're 87 years old. So even on my end, like, of course, I love them. I want to take care of them. But that transition alone is very difficult. Like, staying temporarily in their basement until we figure out what we're going to do, giving up our life over there, and also just adjusting to having Mom and I under the same roof. Like, that's where it's at. That would be its own reality show. No lie.
It is. It's really a big change in life, as our parents are aging. And I find myself in that same situation these days with my parents, both of them 89 years old, and some cognitive and some physical impairments. And it really starts changing the way we look at our parents, but how we visit and spend time with them, because now the time is now being spent providing physical care for them, emotional support, versus just visiting them like we did in past years. And the relationship starts changing as well. And so we go from being the sons and the daughters to the actual caregivers and providing that emotional support. So the relationship itself does change.
I find myself in a situation where my mom is very independent, takes care of everything every day. She'll be, you guys, my mom is going to be 90 this coming weekend.
That's fantastic.
And I do want to find ways to support her so that she feels continues to feel as confident as she is. What are some of the things that we can, help guide our parents and say, look, this doesn't, you don't have to take everything on anymore. You don't have to all these things like Dr. Flores was talking about, like the bills and things like that. What's the gentlest way for us to provide that support?
Oh, gosh. As we age, we still want to maintain our independence and feel capable as though we can still continue living our lives the way we used to and to continue that through every decade, whether we're in our 80s and going into our 90s or you're already in your 90s. But providing the support in a way that we're not necessarily taking things away from them and just taking it over and doing it ourselves. But the best way is to do it with them, not to take it away, but to keep them involved in the process of doing it. So, again, they still feel capable. They still feel part of the daily process of paying the bills, maintaining the house, cooking, doing the grocery shopping, whatever that entails. It's very important for anyone, honestly, at any age for that matter, to feel that you're as independent and as capable as you possibly can be. Now, keep in mind, as we get older, things do change, and do we need some help or support in some areas more than we did before? Absolutely, absolutely. But as we're trying to support with good intentions, we always have to keep in mind, how does the person feel when I do help them? Are they going to feel open to accepting my help, yes or no? And what does that look like? So we just kind of have to navigate that a little gently so they know that we're helping and not taking over, even though it's with good intentions.
And how do we, because there are so many kids of aging parents who are, doing the best we can to help, and it can take its toll, especially if we have jobs, we have kids, how do folks manage their own mental health and be aware of being mindful of what the work that they're doing, because we don't think of it as a work, we think of it as like, I gotta, right?
That's I gotta.
Yeah. Well, it's family, and then even when you talk about different cultures, sometimes it's very culturally based that you take care of your own family, your own loved ones. So it's very important that we recognize and honor all the individuals, family members, friends who are caregivers. They're providing some level of care for someone that they care about. And I always like to honor National Caregivers Day, which is this month on February 21st. But it's important to recognize the challenges that a caregiver, a person providing care, the challenges that they may face, including high stress levels and even caregiver burnout. And we need to support healthy life balance and self-care, because in order to care for someone or support someone else, first and foremost, and people think this is selfish, but it's on the contrary. We need to actually put ourselves first. And the key is to accept that you are equally as important and you need to take care of yourself if you even begin to think that you're going to be able to take care of someone else. So maintaining a healthy you not only is beneficial for you, but for the care receiver. So you want to make sure that you avoid that caregiver burnout and that caregiver stress at any cost, because you just don't want to go down that rabbit hole with that. You have to maintain your well-being, your health, your emotional health, physically as well, in order to take care of someone else.
What kind of resources are available for caregivers, and how do they access them?
Yeah, you can go online. And again, we at Belmont Village Senior Living, there are a lot of resources actually on our website. There are some tutorials, educational pieces on our website. You can search in there. And you can learn how to care for your loved one. What does that look like? Identifying what their needs might be, and again, identifying some health issues. So I think right up front, you've got to educate yourself. So you can Google online, search caregivers, how to navigate being a caregiver today, but also go on Belmont Village website there's a lot of helpful hints on there.
You've helped a lot of people today. I just want you to know that. I know a lot of folks find themselves in this situation. I do want to write a book someday about, because
that would be interesting.
I've worked with people, but I want to talk about like growing older and accepting help. As you know, like it'll be in the next 10 years where I have to accept that I think I told this story to somebody not too long ago. You know, we're on Milwaukee Avenue. It's 4 lanes of heavy traffic sometimes, and I'll think, I can just run across, in between the cars, and my ankle will twitch and be like, I might fall. I don't have the same abilities that I did 10 years ago. And I think we need to come to terms with that and sort of go, okay, I'm not that person anymore, but I'm still I'm still who I am, right? That kind of thing.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Well, it's so important because as we age, I always tell people, I said, are you the same as you were 5 years ago, 10 years ago, or even more than that?
Nope.
Okay, so depending on where you are in your life, certainly not. We're all changing, and that's normal. We age. That's a part of life. But, being able to accept, some help and again, creating your own self-awareness that, I might need a little help one of these days.
Yeah.
I have kids and, I find that sometimes when they talk to me, it's a little bit different, because I thought, oh, shoot, I'm getting older. So their approach to me is becoming a little bit different, even though I am very capable. I'm very independent. But it's just them showing me that they care and they're looking out for me. So it's a loving touch, and I love that. But I do have to reassure them, it's like, I'm okay. But trust me, I definitely will ask you if I need a hand with something.
Yeah, exactly. I think that we have to remember we're not less, and someone who wants to help loves you, and that's an important thing to remember. Thank you so much, Joyce. And again, the website is belmontvillage.com. That's belmontvillage.com. And Joyce, we'll talk to you again soon. And again, folks, the National Caregivers Day is February 21st, so honor those in your life or yourself on February 21st.
I'm going to tell my person to get me flowers that day.
There you go. Joyce, you have a great rest of your evening, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thank you so much, Patty. You too.
Take care. Let's take a break here, and we'll continue our conversation when we come back on WCPT 820 Heartland Signal and KTNF AM 950 Minneapolis, St. Paul.
You're listening to Driving It Home with Patti Vasquez.
In your communities, in Chicago.
On WCPT 820.
Thank you so much for joining us as we continue our drive home in studio with Susana Flores, the author of Face Hooked. What's the second part of that? Face Hooked. Is there a...
Well, wow, I just blinked right now. Yeah.
Okay, I keep saying face hooked, and I know there's a second part.
How Facebook affects our emotions, relationships, and lives. I just had a brain fart.
Yeah, I'm never going to be able to remember that. Face hooked. All the
just
things
go
that
with
she
face
said.
hooked.
And Untamed, the psychology of Marvel's Wolverine.
Yay!
Excellent. And where can folks find your books? Where do you usually direct folks?
They are on Amazon, also on my website, nola-wellness.net.
Oh, nola-wellness.net. Excellent. Oh, let's make sure people know about that.
You should write a follow-up to Face Hooked. I mean, there's so much out there now.
What should it be?
It's so, I don't know. I love that.
Told you so. Sorry, that was terrible.
That was great.
Let's, Steve in Des Plaines has been hanging on. Steve and I talked a little bit off the air. So, Steve, you were telling me that you've been inspired over the last few years or what's happened to go back to school. Tell us a little bit about what happened, Steve.
Yes, well, I'm 71 years old, former Marine. When I got out of the service in 76, I went to school, and I had a semester off, and it kind of ruined me, and I just never got back. I got into the trades and been self-employed. And then now with Trump, his election, the first time made me sick to my stomach, but I dealt with it. This second time, something has happened. There's something in my gut that got churned, and something, a fire has been relit. Yeah, I'm a pretty active guy for 71, and I decided to go back to school. I'm at Northeastern.
Awesome.
I'm studying poli-sci and history.
Oh,
and I'm getting 9 hours, pretty good load for after 45 years away from it. And I can't explain it. I went to D.C. to meet up with an old Marine buddy of mine who was from West Virginia, and we were going to go to the swearing in and the parade. And quite frankly, I was going to give him the finger as he walked by. And I spent the day at the Smithsonian, so that was probably a better.
Isn't that great?
That is great.
Of my time. And I tell you what. And you know what? So I'm going forward, Dad. I'm going to call in a lot more. I'm a first-time caller.
Excellent! I love it. I don't have my bell. Someone move my bell. Hold on. Go ahead.
I can't explain that. I'm just something's been lit in my belly, and I don't know what it is. And so this thing about going old, I'm not going old. I'm getting better. And
yes,
I'm pumped. I'm pumped.
Well, I think Semper Fi, my friend, because I know that I know that when you stood on those yellow footprints and your commitment to service to our country, I think that's what's been reawakened, is that you feel a need to protect Americans and to continue service. And congratulations on that. And my mother got her degree from Northeastern. It's a great school, and I would love to hear more about what you're studying and what you learned. And please continue to join our conversations. And here's my bell for Steve, the first-time caller.
Yay! Hey, if I may, real quick, if I do it right, I could have my my 4-year degree at the midterms, possibly. So that's a motivator.
Wow,
that's great!
Congratulations, sir. That's amazing.
Patty, let me tell you, I love your jingle. It makes me happy when I hear it. I sing along with it, and I love the part about politicians grabbing butts. I just think that I love
it. Yes, because it rhymes with masks. I will try to get Steve Goody, because we're going to rewrite the music will be the same, but he's going to rewrite the lyrics to update a little bit for the second term. But I'll try to ask him. I'll try to maybe I'll think about it. If you like it, maybe I'll keep it. We'll see what happens.
I love your jingle.
All right.
I sing along with it when it comes up. Anyway,
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye-bye. I thank you. I want to thank my guests in studio, Elliott Serrano, who has been one of my closest friends. Like the minute we met, because Han shot first. That's all I have to say to anybody.
He always shoots first.
And Dr. Susana Flores, who I met several years ago and have become closer friends in the last years, or so, like the last couple of years. And both of you, I want to talk a little bit about dogs, because I am not allowed to have one. My son is deathly allergic, and my husband, apparently, I didn't realize that he's not a dog person. So it was wonderful. Over the course of 2 weeks, I was with a beautiful Lolita, who is a Chihuahua, weighs about 3 pounds.
More like 7, but okay.
And then I was with a Doberman Pinscher for the last 4 days. I was babysitting Mojo, who is 95 pounds. So here's my question to you both. Elliott, have you ever had anybody dog sit Miss Moneypenny?
Not yet. Not yet. And something I need to look into, because,
So when you dog sit, I know you have dog sit, do you think you ever do something that you think is going to be problematic for when the owners come back? So what I would do, I was making turkey burgers for myself every day. I just wasn't eating out because I've been spending a lot of money. So, but I would take some water and then stir up the juices from the turkey burger, because they asked me to put water.
Food.
So one morning I didn't do it. And Mojo knocked that bowl over like, what is this?
Yeah,
what is this
crap?
And wait until his parents come home and when they try to serve him regular food, he's going to be like, what is this?
Yes.
What is this?
And they also had sweet potato chips for him, as a snack. Okay. So I was like, so I'll make a sweet potato and I'll split it with Mojo. And every time I went to the kitchen, Mojo's like, are we having a sweet potato? Are we having a sweet potato?
You have made it bad for his parents.
Yeah, that happens. That happened when I was watching your dog, Monty.
Oh, my.
Way back when. I got in trouble because Monty was allowed to sleep in bed with me.
And my mom didn't let him sleep in bed?
She did not want him sleeping in bed.
We should have given you Monty.
I would have.
Yeah. When we're good, Lolita allows us to use her furniture. That's how bad it is.
I tell you, so she asked me. So Susie asked me to take Lolita for a walk, and Lolita just she's looking at the door is Mommy coming? And I had to walk a block and a half away from the apartment carrying Lolita.
That sounds about right.
She's like, nope. Are we going back? Yeah. But I will tell you, cleaning up after a Chihuahua and then cleaning up after a Doberman Pinscher is
a very big difference.
Hey, try cleaning up after a 110-pound dog.
Amazing. But I want to say that it was lovely to be able to spend. It does change your heart rate to be around a pet that just adores you. Just wants nothing.
Yes, very therapeutic.
Oh my God, you guys! If you can adopt a pet, and responsibly so.
Yes.
Responsibly. It's work, and it's an expense.
Yes.
And the one thing right now, the main issue that people are running into is the vet expense. Like if something happens, you have to go to emergency vet. That's incredibly
we've encountered
expensive.
that too. Yeah.
So be mindful of that. But yes, there is a tremendous benefit from it. I don't have kids, so I don't have to worry about that.
Same here.
I still want an emotional support pet. Oh, anyway, I get yours. I got to come visit.
Yes, you do. Yes,
I got to see Miss Moneypenny soon, and Miss Moneypenny is hopefully road tripping with us too.
Yeah, she loves trips. She likes going on car rides.
I'll put that in the search. One more thing. I don't know if Steve will appreciate this, but Dr. Flores will become a very limited number, and Rue will become a very small group of people who will now know that Steve exists, because a lot of folks don't think that he does.
I know. You talk about Steve, and it's like he's like Norm's wife on Cheers. Vera.
Yeah, Vera.
No, we never saw Vera on Cheers, or Maris on
Frasier.
On Frasier.
Yeah.
Miles's.
That's really the people. That's true. They make fun of me all the time that they don't believe that he exists.
There was one time people thought I was Steve.
Yes,
because I would go with you to all these functions.
He was my plus one to everywhere.
Are you Steve? Are you her husband? I go, no, I'm not. I'm not that. No.
He's one of my best friends. So.
Yeah, I know. And you would not wish me on her. You really don't.
Stop.
Don't do that.
Stop. Again, the website for Dr. Flores' work is NOLA-wellness.net. That's
correct.
NOLA-wellness.net. Elliott, where do you do? And also your social medias. You do great work. You do funny stuff. And
I try. Lately, it's been a little bit challenging with the world. But, I mean, you can find, I have an About Me page, about.me/Elliott Serrano. That's with 2 L's, 2 T's, and 2 R's. And links to everything I do there, my social medias, my podcast, my blog, which has been dead for a while, but also my Amazon page if you want to see the stuff I've written.
And on my end, I'm at NOLA Wellness, Instagram, same on Facebook.
Excellent. All right, let's go have dinner. Lady B, love you so much. Thank you for everything. Good to see you again. Randy Rhodes is up next, followed by Matt McNeil. Talk to you guys tomorrow. I'll be here, I promise.